Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. We are at the MPLS and SDN World Congress here in Paris in France, and of course France is the home of cinema, which is probably one of the reasons why we're doing this interview in a cinema. As you can see, a bit unusual, but we're at it anyway. I'm pleased to be talking with Shahar, who is the AVP of New Technologies at PCCW Global. Shahar, good to see you again.
Thank you.
First question to you is, SDN and NFV are as much about business transformation as they are about network transformation. What are the main things in your view that service providers need to do from a business transformation perspective to ensure they take full advantage of these new technologies?
The network programmability that is available through SDN allows service delivery within seconds rather than within weeks or sometimes months that we're currently used to. And the processes, the business process and the operational processes that carriers deploy today need to be changed to accommodate that. Today, every order goes through a rigorous steps of margin analysis and technical design, diagrams, quotes, signed order forms. Those are valid if you deliver service for a year, but they cannot be valid if you deliver a service for an hour with a 5 minutes notice. So processes need to change. Capacity needs to be pre-provisioned. Margin analysis need to be pre-arranged. You should know your cost in advance. And when everything is already pre-provisioned, all you have to do is just activate. And that requires a change in the way carriers view their whole business process. It does not mean that the current process is bad. It's good and it's written with blood or with green blood. You know, most of those process steps are built upon cases and cases of failures and business catastrophes. But you know, we're moving into a new phase, and this new phase of on-demand service delivery through network programmability requires a new view on your network, on your resources, and on the way you deliver them and monetize them.
Thank you. Given what you've just been saying, Shahar, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing service providers in the market today?
There are several challenges, but I think they can all be put under one umbrella, one word, maybe not all, but most of them, which is silos. And I'm talking about internal silos and external silos. Internal silos are that within an operator, within a service provider today, you still have silos within the organization. You have the sales silo, you have the provisioning silo, and each of those silos would usually use a different platform or a different system, and they store their information in a different manner. All that needs to be aligned because when you work in silos and each silo has their own small database, sometimes it's an Excel sheet, sometimes it's a fully fledged database, but they might not necessarily be aligned, and there's a drift of information. So that's one silo. The other silo is the inter-carrier silo, because each carrier operates as a silo by itself. And when you need to deliver service today, in I would say 9 cases out of 10, if not more, you would need another service provider to complement your service, because you might not be able to cover the entire service end to end. So that would be another silo. And again, you're talking about 2 different OSSs with 2 different languages and geographies, and you need to bring them together. So that is a major challenge that needs to be addressed. Today it's addressed in a manual manner, but again, manual is good, but it is not real time.
What are the challenges then when it comes to implementing transformational technologies such as NFV and SDN?
I think the first challenge is internal, within the company itself. There's plenty of legacy equipment, legacy platforms. We cannot and we do not want to get rid of them because they deliver the majority of, today they deliver all of revenues. And we want to deliver incremental revenues, new revenues, but we cannot abandon our existing revenues and existing customers. So first challenge would obviously be to integrate this new technology into our existing platforms and do a gradual migration rather than shut everything off and turn everything on again on a new platform. It just doesn't work this way. So we will need to work those two platforms together and need to figure out a way to manage our inventory online and offline at the same time, and manage those two platforms together, serving the same customers. It might be two different billing platforms that need to be integrated one way or another, two different network management platforms, two per silo. We're discussing the previous silos. So that simply adds more complexity. Obviously, the ultimate goal would be to move everything into on-demand, automatic, SDN, programmable, but there will be a transition period that is not going to be very short, probably a few years. We still have some legacy services running because customers want them and customers are paying for them. So, we will not turn off a customer just because we want to get rid of a platform. We will try and figure out a way to deliver the same service on a different platform if that is more economical for us. So these are probably the biggest challenges.
I think also perhaps what shouldn't be underestimated is the challenge to the organisation itself, the culture of an organisation, and the change that these new technologies is going to force.
Obviously, I fully agree. But this is a cultural change, obviously, and those cultural changes also, need to be taken into account. We have the old regime, but that is the regime that's currently running the company, and those are talented people. And obviously, the intent is to keep talented people in the organization, but you have to teach old dogs new tricks, and that might be complex. It's not impossible. It's very possible, but it might be complex, indeed.
Given the challenges we've just talked about, why then is it worth this move to SDN and NFV?
I think this move is inevitable. Simply because that is where the user demand is going. We're no longer bound to a fixed static computer sitting on a desktop, connected through an Ethernet port to a LAN and sort of a LAN of network storage in the basement. That's no longer the case. People are now using mobile devices. Even corporate enterprise and corporate personnel are using mobile devices for the day-to-day work. People call each other using the mobile rather than the desktop phone, because you're not sure where a person is. And your data is no longer stored in the basement, it's stored in the cloud. So demand is changing. And to address that demand, we need to come up with a viable solution, because our existing services, yes, they still address some of the needs, but they do not address the new needs. They address the old needs, and new needs arise. And we must address them. So, and obviously, when you address a new need, that's a new source of revenue. And today most carriers are running a service that's becoming a commodity, and it is commoditizing. Whatever we do, the expensive circuits that used to pay out, to pay out the butter on top of our bread, are now leaving a very, very, very thin layer of butter, and the bread becomes thinner as well. So we have to come up with new sources of revenue, and these on-demand services are a source of revenue. So I think it's inevitable, because if we do not address the market need, and if we do not find a solution to the new requirements that arise from the market, we're doomed to be a commodity. And a commodity, eventually someone offers the same service for a bit less, and yeah, you're thrown out.
When then, Shahar, do you think the benefits from these new technologies will be reaped, and who will be the first ones to gain those benefits?
I think it's a matter of probably a year or two before we start being able to deliver those services. And many carriers offer on-demand services today already on their own network. It is not fully on demand. It is usually you'd have to book it through a web portal a day in advance, and it's delivered. Some have even shorter intervals, so it might even be a few minutes. You can book a service today already, but it is still limited to on-net. And so those benefits can be actually reaped today already. They are being reaped today already by those carriers who already implemented such platforms. The inter-carrier service delivery will likely take at least 2 more years. We are in the process of developing the inter-carrier APIs, as we define them, the eastbound APIs. And there are several industry bodies, several SDOs, which are currently working on developing those eastbound APIs. And the timeline, as I see them, I'm quite involved in at least 2 of them, in ONF and MEF, where we develop those eastbound APIs. Yeah. It seems like it's going to be about 2 years before those are being published. Once they're published, I think we will be able to see a much larger revenue stream coming from those services, because it will not be limited to our own network only. It will span beyond our network. And obviously, depending on what type of carrier you are, if you're a domestic carrier that serves the domestic market, obviously an on-net service only can reap revenues today already. If you're more of an international guy that uses partners for last mile, then you would have to run through inter-carrier APIs and NNIs, and that means it's gonna be a bit longer. It's gonna be more like 2 years, hopefully not much more than that.
You mentioned partnering just then. One of the things that we've seen as a result of these new technologies, cloud, NFV, SDN and so on, is that companies within that emerging ecosystem are partnering with others to help service providers overcome the challenges we've been talking about. How pronounced is that, and is PCCW doing the same thing?
So we certainly do. And partnering is required, because no one covers the entire globe. And enterprises who span beyond the footprint of one single carrier will have to use another carrier. Either the enterprise uses that other carrier, or their carrier, their home carrier, partners with another carrier to deliver service beyond their own footprint. PCCW, in fact, has over 140 partners around the world to create a footprint that pretty much supersedes that of some of the of the known global carriers. We're not so known as such, but actually we do have a very large footprint through partnership. So this is certainly a must. And obviously, partnership is only footprint partnership is one, but now you have to partner with cloud providers, because you have to enrich your portfolio. It's not only connectivity. You have to add security. You have to add applications. You have to add equipment, CPE of some sort, NFV, for example. All those require partnership. So I don't think that trying to conquer the whole world by yourself is a strategy that's going to work. It's going to be very expensive and very hard to manage. But that does not say that managing partners is easy, but it's doable.
Okay, this is the MPLS and SDN World Congress. We've talked about SDN at some length. Let's just turn to MPLS, multi-protocol label switching. This is an old, venerable, not to say ancient technology in many ways. How does it play into SDN, and why is it important?
Well, again, if you look at SDN, traditionally, it was referred to as control plane and data plane and separation of the two. Yeah. I take SDN from 2 different perspectives. One is, let's forget about the layered approach and just look at it as a programmable network. And programmable meaning that you no longer manually manage your network. You let a software manage your network. So you let software define your circuits. And I think MPLS, being a service that can be configured through software, is a natural candidate for SDN, for implementation of SDN. Bear in mind, then, if you go back to the traditional hierarchy of control plane and data plane, we do have MPLS and NIs. We had them 10 years ago, 15 years ago. They were already there. They were managed manually. Now when we establish the eastbound API on the control plane, basically between two OSS platforms, suddenly you grow from manual MPLS into SDN type of MPLS, which means you turn your MPLS platform to become programmable, and you even extend it beyond your own network through NNIs to other networks using the eastbound API. So you have the NNI as the data plane, or the data plane interconnect, and you have the eastbound API as the control plane interconnect.
Great stuff. Okay, Shahar, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.